everybody. Thanks for coming. Welcome to the Newtown Revue. We do this about every 6 weeks. We bring together music and literature. And usually it's Athens folks, but we have a couple special guests from Oxford, Mississippi, so it's going to be a very exciting Newtown Revue. Yeah, let's get started.
Hey, I want to tell everybody, thank you so much for coming tonight. This is great. Tonight, first we have Jessica Comola. She's come all the way here from Oxford via Austin. She just put out this chapbook called What Kind of Halley Divine, which you should buy when you leave. And she co-hosts the Trobar Rick reading series up in Oxford. And Jessica, come on up. Thanks.
Thanks so much, y'all. Can y'all hear me if I don't use the mic up in here? Okay. All right. So I'm going to read a few poems from the chapbook and then some new stuff. It's beautiful and we're inches from it. In that we are 99.4% empty space, in the expansion and contraction of space, in the high clouds, the cold high, in that we are expressed as sums over zero, in that we are 6 forms of energy, in that stars are alive and dying in my body, in that this is what it is like, in that we are like this, in that a flame and its oxygen move into each other with perfect discretion, in that there are tricks with pills and voices, in that there are tricks with poor endings, so poor by which small objects may be obtained, in that you'll write nothing back, in that we get used to it quicker than we pictured, in that we pictured it, in that we didn't want to, in that this poor red space is my body, in that you spend nights with it, and not just nights, though it's not yours, in that we turn to warm, soft things that look most closely at us, in that we are alone and knew this, have known this, in that we find this inside each other, in that we find this forever in others, in that she put more space inside you than I can ever get out, in that those who know space know its own warmth, in that we are far apart, in that we are high up in the zeros now, in that my body is a red cloud, in that my body is a red pill, they make few red pills, in that you stay inside me, in that the way you touch me at night is the same as how you touch in the day, in that I am all data, in that it is that simple, in that I want it simple, in that clouds are 99.2% empty space, in that my red body stays together, in that my body is 93.6% red, particularly when it is becoming yours, in that space contains you, in that you are a star body of zeros, in that the sum of you plus me is a warm body only, in that the body is 99.4% empty space, in that this is what we're like, in that as data we are all alike, in that our sum is zero, in that space is what is contained, in that space is what is outside us, in that we contract into each other, in that red clouds are a warning, in that they are a warning of warmer weather, in that red bodies are nothing like flames, in that red bodies are mostly oxygen, in that this is among other elements, in that elements are more than data, in that I want to be more than data, in that I am afraid, in that I am consumable, in that I stay inside me, in that we are 99.4% empty space. This appears to be any particular system. I am gripped around the waist and carried gently and without personal effort. My body is doubled and there is the self-doubling of dreams. I'm born embedded in a body, then sunstruck as bleeders turn from blue to red. This is the commonest, simplest type of love, a druzy cavity. I say, come, like the dead say to their bodies. The little wheel goes. These are the sounds of the body leaving the body, like wind through a window, though the curtain stands still. By our hands I am usually first to come, soft children come from me. I am touched by a complete hand, To the dead, as to children, everything is alive. A lucky Bonnie yawning. A far piss scent of houses and their clovers, a peck in the crown, a sound sleeper. Text faithfully to the original, basically. A devil's right and left hands with their devil dread. I am drab, I breach chasms. A girl is sack and sugar. Hup, hypno, Lord, take thus your bratty, pretty bunny. Girls and their frontispieces of 5 fingers. Item, the eating of head copy. Item, the smoking of a dead man's tooth. Item, spit down the length of your own body. Large, sweet know-how, say nothing. I make a tighter and tighter sound.
All right.
And these are some newer poems. A mass of happiness through my masterpiece, wiggling at. It is hard to believe and is, although it is evident that the eyes are too close to you already, I am sucked more and more, I seem to be stuck again. The edge of the hill is gone too, very beautiful. We're all as far as it'll bit be sniff out. My baby makes millions of slippery plates that go on, that go on, that go back, that comfort themselves on the rug, then guns come. Whereas Sibba sounds my inside me salvage plastic strips. I writhe like a strange shade light. I hope it goes that way. My prival wets, hopes it goes. A shade is born, comes in various forms. Even within the same plane, my arms do things that finish evenly. Their value is that they must finish evenly. Thrax spring a dandy white bulb, thrall if it is possible. Tuto, if it is at all possible. A hidden mouthpiece, so we find the mouth's wattage. The property that determines that any individual entity exists. The property that determines that a given class is determined by its equivalency to the disjoint union of a collection of other classes. The property that becomes property E, entity. A bit of atom and a bit of bagged milk that on us sparks the coming. The property that determines the property to which self-restriction refers. I don't regret hiring you. I think you're a real little wonder blower. The property to which a restriction refers. The property that determines the type to which a type restriction refers. An entity that may have other unexpected consequences. A real herbal marble. An entity of type X. The pairwise entity also of the photo wink is a generous friend. My everyday instinct schedule tells me Reese, say so, clutches CC. I am realizer HD52Z585. I am here to scale you, holy mountain, Maja high fly, mad goss, got a mad cost up in magic teapot. Without the mother, we play friendlies through our rangefinders, rough munsies. To cruciverb, nan, dammy, even tiny things armor, even the tiny things raise tumors from their softness. It's gotten fairly crushy. You form me like a corner. Achieving the satisfactory fill is no longer the primary task that it once was. You just say whatever's done in your mouth. The geister as well. The whirlwind, slick worman's whelping cat hung by her forepaws as well. I've returned with a message and cannot meet you after all. Dread me, doghound me, as zombie someones are highly important or not, or non-existent. There were instances. These became monstrous pixives, aimed motovan. Hear me, pippies, get out. The Halux compound is no place to play pretend, to go well at all, to be the balm side rubber of an onion head. Blood coagulates, then the body forms, then soul unites with the body. I ate them hot and bittered down the rest. This weather won't put out. We ask that we might have weather, that these might be our weathers, because a faint breath is good to draw calmly, because to lift up your dresses, sir, to lift them up with even the smallest of my foot, is oh ho, my harness keeps the steam dope. All right, and these are the last two. The smart of my example target heart rate. I write a thing again, I repeat a thing, I open with reap, reap, flicks holy water on you. I'm not listening for the sound so much when I shake a thing, I mean for it to break. What's a one-bell tower? I figured out how to configure. It dangs in the conservatory. It was maybe used to kill a body. It'll not work. It'll not ever get blown right off. Maybe a wholesale Johnny has game spanks a portmanteau with the great gleam of a Halligan Bach mantra. Bad, swang, a body does a thing. Is your icon a teeny winky? Mine's a penitent. I'm a penitent. I take cholesterol home tests and film them. At St. Andrew's Episcopal High, there's a hack machine under heat performing on easy print dollies. I can lift the cheval's behanged heft. I can fix a blown part. I'll just be needing now an 8mm video adapter to show you that wrecked Hawking in which all unicellular organisms involved begin to drift spirographically. Thus, the generation of a new coat of arms. Thus, half the world's oxygen is an awkward stranger standing over what's left of my left shoulder. This process continues until matter expands to zero. I came out of a swatter hollow, came to like a composite of angels, and like a composite of angels, I have a bikini wax and a long-cured antibiotic infection. I eat root tufts. If not I, my black, rare royal teeth, if not black in the fingernails, I am a black-named pathogen. I have forgotten how to have magic, as certain persons who have projected into the atmosphere have forgotten magic. There's most often credit for a blonde iris and day-glow bride's veil who cannot lie in consecrated ground, who did a heavy scent I always check personally. I have records of each. I aug and I shed. I ask if you are damaged. In the altar age, a gelatin supplement moves alongside us, aids in our ankle braces for us, gives us several free online playgroups in which to say goodnight. If damaged, you can still be poached, be a fun noodle, feel palpitations. A copycat petite in my cheap ski clothes, I bounce on the boil of a mount tip and buckeye and build my own biannual investments. I've stood and I've spoken. I think it's almost sweet. I've just become eligible for webcam, a Pharaoh cheat, a Pearl Export Series cheat, a symptom checker that checks dresses for teas. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'm Beth, and I love Avid. And when Deirdre asked me to introduce Thayer, for some reason I got this image of the night that we convinced her to come see this California garage rocker play in a house party, which ended up involving our sliding down a piece of plastic into a moldy, asbestos-filled crawl space. And the guy proceeded to blast our eardrums out, which is exactly the opposite of Thayer's music, which is super elegant and spacey and spooky. And we had the privilege recently of getting to hear a preview of her new album, which is even a departure from that. It is amazing. I don't know when it's coming out. Maybe you can tell us. But when you get the chance to hear it and have it, I highly recommend it. It sounds like nothing else in Athens, and at the same time, she's very much part of Athens. So. Thayer Sarrano.
their plans. Their plans are loud, and they knock you down. And you stand up in your new suit. They cut your hair, now you disappear. You are nothing like your father. Take off your clothes and jump in the water. Believe me, I'm certain it's on your right. Believe me, look to your right. Hang up the phone and hear the call that you have heard since you were born. I tell you nothing that you don't know, 'cause your blue eyes have seen my soul. You are nothing like your father. Take off your clothes and jump in the water. Believe me, I'm certain it's on your right. Believe me, look to your right. Look to your right. It's on your right. It's on your right. It's on your right. You're nothing like your father. Take off your clothes and jump in the water. You are nothing like your father. Take off your clothes and jump in the water.
Thank you, Thayer. That was awesome. And y'all, her album is really good. The one that she's that's already out. So, and I want to remind y'all too that all our performers tonight have books and CDs for sale. So if you like what you hear, and thanks y'all for coming. I want to take a picture of you because look how many people are there. Okay, the next person up is a poet, another poet from Oxford, Mississippi. His name is Tim Early. He's the author of the poetry collections Boondoggle, The Spooking of Mavens, and poems descriptive of rural life and scenery, as well as a limited edition chapbook, Catfish Poems. His poems have appeared in Chicago Revue, Colorado Revue, Jubilat, Cake Train, Dredgenold, Beestone, New Orleans Review, and many other journals and anthologies. He teaches for Ole Miss Online and the Fine Arts Work Center's online writing program, and co-hosts the Trobeck Rick reading series in Oxford, Mississippi. Tim Early, thank you.
Thanks, Al, for the introduction. Step away from the microphone. These poems are all from a book called Poems Descriptive of Rural Life and Scenery. They're all in the voice of a recalcitrant Appalachian person. I was born and raised in western North Carolina in a county where it used to be dominated by the textile mill industry, and then all the textile mills left and were replaced with meth and disability. So that's sort of the cultural backdrop for these. Spring placed its finger on my spine. I am not some kind of zombie with a surfboard and ham. I am not some kind of pigeon cooing itself to death. The engine of my flatbed truck cuggles on the hill. The neighborhood wyvern sits a lilt on the berm of its own brain. I am ready to have some babies. I am ready to be a bellicose producer and have some babies and toss them into air for years until the Lord strikes them with the gift of speech and their tails turn the mountains insides out into the meat I eat for breakfast. Until then, I will watch my squash grow and pine for the cleft of some long-lost beauty's historical chin. The daily path is riddled with deceits, dresses, yellow hymns. We were merry once. We hung curtains. The Lord brought us together in a shallow pool. The water beaded on her fur. I loved and despised both her vicious and enduring parts. She could not get on with my mother and left for the insolvent side of Jacksonville, Florida. The blue mouth killed my mother, her head wrapped, her incessant dusting. The hymnal contained eternal springs, and she sang over it. Her thick ankles and periwinkle eyes, the sparred misted clouds of March, reached inside us. Walking to the church was terrifying. Walking into the church felt like walking into your own mouth. Inside the church, Jesus was hairy with milk, laments, and there was a copperhead swimming in the baptismal. The blue mouth killed her. Do not put your mouth on the spigot, dear Lord. Do not insert into your mouth a hickory twig, sweet Peter James. I suspect my children will not exist or else become legendary in their silences, mute puttocks scrimmed from the sour mash. And yet, the mountain rain, all kinds of spectacular dying, biblical black leather, going to town, hair that won't stop growing, a mosquito stealthing blood, the asylum inmates buried vertically. I shall play my toothpick. I shall eat yonder cabin. I shall ride yonder donkey. I shall hoe yonder cake. I shall be wrought from my own particular orality. I shall wear the yellow dress in private. I shall smoke my mother. I am not some kind of zombie with a surfboard and ham. I piss upon your digital age and your perfumes rent from dog eggs. I am wrenched into this mountain. It is airish out. Anoint my crotch with your killing gun. Scoop out my scrotum like a pumpkin's entrails. Remove my potato eye and shove into its gulch the cachet-bearing fury of your Quaker cock. Break my spine, silver rain, a bait of ruined teeth and quick-feckled lies. She remains in Jacksonville still, and in my dreams tiny dobros hang from her firm and too large ears. My warped singing shovel hangs in the barn. I've never heard a more vatic rooster, that dazzle, old Twyla, some bright morning, a song more dead. The poppy has deliquesced. I am suffering from an increase in birds. What of the deliquesced poppy? What of the increase in birds? Should we all participate in the white slave trade? We should all participate in the white slave trade. A portal in the scrub oak, a merger of matted air and dim shine among the pines. You are not like the others. You are exactly like the others. The poppy has regrown into a brain stem. The birds are fluted bombs and missionaries. My ovary exploded in the women's hostel. Jesus Christ also exploded. The poppy is his afterlife. Will this afterlife of coruscated organs be offered unto you? No, not even a chalice, nary a knuckle. The poppy, a tiny green spider, my sternum. The American communes hum. The deliquesced poppy may be entered into. Spectral aperture, a grace beyond toadstool. We are exactly like everyone else. The child frowns in the deluge, a bird in each fist. It is raining in Mogadishu, Mississippi, and it is raining inside her heart. It was a murderer's sunshine, every house green, cumulobone and rule gill in the liver, but then starlight intervened. I am the pharaoh worm, I will not drink your blood. I said, I am the pharaoh worm, I will not drink your blood. Let's go to the park. Let's go to the store. Let's go to the park. Let's go to the store. Let's go to the park. Let's go to the store. Let's go to the park. Let's go to the store. Let's go to the park. Let's go to the store. Let's go to the park. Let's go to the store. Anyway, I was thinking we could just be friends. I lived in a gully. I lived in a briar patch. It is safer for you that way. I lived in a gully. I lived in a briar patch. I lived in a gully. I lived in a briar patch. I lived in a gully. I lived in a briar patch. I lived in a gully. I lived in a briar patch. I lived in a gully. One time I drank some Drano liquid clog remover. One time I ate some fire. One time I drank some Drano liquid clog remover. One time I ate some fire. I lived in a briar patch. How y'all doing? Humor's resin the thicket of gorge and throat and limbs. Flower moored or in seaming again, a prow, the lingering of deer on chasm, head of lance, escaped lunar prick, steroidal, amaze, sleek pilk on his head. I accuse the night of forfeiting its graft. A nourishment of infinite languor is not in the stars and the fall ochre. The porch overwined the adjacent trailer houses, with outed windows, rote hollering, a veritable assemblage uncoined of children and dogs and tires to tell what from what. The purpose of ownership vanishes in the cold and musk, and disturbs my solitary feud, or write the feudal mastery and impress it on these. Blast of treacle, a parent mill spawn, a colonial model of instigation, so as not to own the pot piss den, so as not to murder the outhouse blues as the coyote murders sleep, the river slug dowry unspent. Withstand the lattice, its literal instance. Crush up any pill, just crush it up into an answer, a night disinclined, potter's field of stobs and pansies, beheaded runyon head and poke, and flung into the molting pond. Nakedly as aught, things are as aught, but they are reckoned through the filters wrought from the devolution of rabid pack creatures into fortresses and men. Release the pardon-pitched and message the unversed, and the ones that follow their gangly respects in dark stovepipe hats, their shredded calendars that slag into progressively greater and greater sleeps until the shape of the moon fills the trailer. The moon itself fills the trailer. Dusk harvest the green bodies and bottles. I am torn to deers, a rind in couplet, a spuming fontanelle, in adversity, demise, in fairest glory, demise. I'm going to read a couple more. I'm pretty sure the animals in that forest were as intelligent as 3 to 5 year old children. I'm pretty sure I was raised in a bomb shelter. I'm pretty sure the people who ate and slept with me there were not my parents. They were not even good people. I'm pretty sure their eyes were gleaming obelisks. I wanted the forest primeval to close in around me. I wanted to urinate on the trunk of an eldritch pine and yodel like a minstrel. Instead, the fluorescent lights found me. Instead, I was not even bioluminescent. I had the communal dropsy for a day, and then I got the herpetology, and then I claimed the strange liquors and slathered myself upon the lathe, and then I got another disease called the blue coagulus. I did not like trifling through magazines. I submitted to everything that was asked of me. On sun-cold winter days, I muled. I was coeval with sin and labor. My beloved refused to ride my toothless horse. I rubbed away my face and my face grew back. I rubbed away my shame and my life radiated out into the quasar field. I sometimes reacted violently when forced to listen to elegant speeches. The mountains rose grim and havered. The looping killdee sang of green vapors. They sang of time and they sang of oceans. I did not like going to the bathroom. I disliked styling my hair. I hoped that the dreams of my neighbors would come true. Now, this is the last one. My next door neighbor, while I was growing up, was this guy named Eddie. He turns into Filch in my poems. And the police were over there a lot. So we knew Eddie was up to various activities. Like, I could give him a ride to the gym, which was like a 5-minute ride, and he'd give me a $100 bill, and I was like, okay, I didn't question it. So we noticed that he hadn't been around for a few days, and I was watching the Asheville News one night, and they were talking about this illegal prescription drug ring in Rutherford County. and the mastermind of the illegal prescription drug ring in Rutherford County. And then boom, there's Eddie's face, right? And so like we knew each other all through high school. He passed away a couple of years ago from using his own products, so I don't get to see him anymore when I go home. But I don't write a lot of, this is Filch's Eddie. My cousin, a tree frog. My Earl Scruggs, a tree frog. I see inside the translucent curl of amphibian belly. It is June, it is sinkhole, it is patched dungarees, it is kerosene fire, it is hay bale. Filch's life in serious nomenclature attributed. He killed a man with a railroad spike once. He burned a house down around his lover once, and she sits in the chair in the ash and smoke. She almost a diaphanal phoenix, cigarillos in her boot, and she pops his shin with a hammer, was all in the contents of time. He sells them scripts and makes $500 and more. He replaces the bad engine. His mother, she chases him with a butcher knife. His mother, he chases her with a baseball bat. Phone yellow and on the wall and always ringing. Blue lights bob in the night like the flicker in the night, like they alien impresario in the night, like it is venal album scathed on the grass. It is the grass itself scathed by the Lordy burn his flexion virus into our ears and outgrow the mongrel crotch from our brains, but not our crotches. Oh, thorny never, he ran over himself, that is possible. He identified the bad element. It is the spectral face of the river laird. It is the sour-mouthed others. It is sawdust pile and hornet and jack startle and mica as notary scratch and event. It is all that which is foolishness, and all that which is not foolishness. All of that is foolishness. In the boss cage, the head of the treasure daddy screaming like advancing pigs, or a storm chord, its ranceable insides, a last metery of horizon and verses, the choral raptured, snap-tuned, a gorse and grot simple, and always the wind, it is gnatched and knocked. It is one more nail in the intestinal bone, the gamete trigger, the poisons arise, the forlorn prig and a semic grief. It is one more body in the ground. Thank you, guys.
Our horses are all dead, being beaten, we keep killing it. We drag it out now, it's on the ground, it's being beaten, we keep killing it. What heart's broken, hollow and sunken, being beaten, we keep killing. Alright, I'll give you relief from my mind, my forehead, my crease. Your memory unties myself, it breaks the line, your heart to mine. What heart's broken, hollow and sunken, being beaten, we keep killing. Yeah. my forehead, my crease. Alright, I'll give you relief from my mind, my forehead, my crease.
Next up is Sabrina, Orah, and Mark. About 3 years ago in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, Al was moving back into town, and Al said, Deirdre, I want to start, Al was house sitting, and my husband and I went to stay with him. And Al said, Deirdre, when I move back to town, we have to start this reading series together. And I was like, I don't know if I want to take anything on. But then he talked me into it, and we figured out what we wanted, and we wanted it to be like uniquely Athens, and we wanted it to be like music and literature. And then we came back here, and it was right before Abbey was open, and I was in the back with Al and Rachel and Janet, and Rachel started talking about how this woman, Sabrina Orah Mark, had just moved into town, and she talked like I should know about her. And so like I went and I Googled her, and I was like, oh, I should, because she was from Brooklyn, and it seemed auspicious that we'd like come up with this idea in Brooklyn. And I called her, and she was a brand new mother, and she was very tired and groggy, and I didn't even really know what I was doing. And I was like, well, we're gonna have this reading series, and she actually read it, our first series. And it's been such a pleasure over the past 3 years to get to know her, because she's an amazing poet and an amazing prose writer, and I've workshopped with her, and I can't wait to have you guys listen to Sabrina Orah Mark.
Thank you, Deirdre. Hi, it's amazing to be reading here tonight. I feel like sometimes I can't separate this bookstore from my heart, so it's very cool to be reading here and to hear Thayer and Jessica and to read with Tim Early again. Tim and I actually spent 7 months as fellows at the Fine Arts Work Center in Provincetown, Massachusetts, and where I think like we feasted on snow, and it's the edge. Provincetown is at the edge of the Cape, literally and metaphorically. So that was a good place to meet Tim Early's poems. So thank you guys for the beautiful readings and the music. So I'm going to read one poem and then a short story. I wanted to say one. I decided to read this poem, The Traitor, tonight because I've been thinking a lot about what it means for me to be raising 2 Black Jewish boys in Georgia. Half the time I'm terrified, and half the time I feel like the most powerful woman alive. And I sometimes think that the only way for us to really fix anything in this world is to wear each other's clothes and sleep in each other's beds and wash our bodies with each other's soap and eat each other's food. So I'm going to read this poem called The Traitor about soldiers wearing the clothes of children. If I can only find it. Okay, let's see. The Traitor. A few days before the first snow, the soldiers dressed like children began to appear. "Come quick," said Beatrice, fetching Walter B. away from his scripture, "and bring candy." Walter B. pulled on his robe and joined Beatrice on the balcony. "Oh, look," said Beatrice, "you can see their small, sweet eyes peeking through the bramble." Walter B. threw a handful of red gumdrops into the air and watched the soldiers dressed like children scatter and raise their arms in glee. "Feels sinful, doesn't it?" purred Beatrice. They watched them stand in the field and chew. "Which one," asked Walter B., "do you think is the hero?" "That one," said Beatrice, "definitely that one, the one with the mittens." "Yes," agreed Walter B., "the others seem less festooned." "And which one do you think," asked Walter B., "is the traitor?" Beatrice bit her lip and looked around. "Maybe that one," she said, "the one with the orange flower in the pocket of his vest." Walter B. agreed, but to be certain, he thought that he should ask. "Little traitor," called out Walter B. The traitor looked up. "I knew it," said Beatrice, clapping her hands. The traitor came closer. The wind shook the orange flower loose from his pocket, but he did not run after it. He missed his mother. The traitor came closer, but then he stopped. He curled into his flowerless vest and fell asleep. Walter B. and Beatrice yawned. The soldiers, dressed like children, opened their mouths as wide as they could, but there was no more candy. There would never again be more candy, and so they sailed away to another land. I love that this is How to Be Happy as the backdrop. I'm gonna when I'm rich and famous, I'm gonna request that for as my constant backdrop. All right, I'm gonna stand up, I think, so you can see how tall I am. So this is a story called Wild Milk, and there are, I think, even though I feel like in many ways a traitor for moving into short stories, I think you'll find some little tiny poems nested inside. So, Wild Milk. On the first day of Live Oak Daycare, all the children are given shovels and a small bag of dirt. We encourage the children, even the babies, especially the babies, to work hard imaginatively. Miss Birdie, my son's teacher, winks. She sits my baby boy in the middle of the floor with his shovel and dirt. He is not even a year old. I look around. The babies are happy. I have never seen such happy babies, chewing on their shovels, spreading around their dirt. Miss Birdie gives me a hug. I wave goodbye to my boy, but he doesn't see me. "Go, go," says Miss Birdie. "He's in good hands." She shows me her hands. They remind me, for some reason, of my hands. 3 hours later, I come to pick up my boy. He is wearing a bright orange poncho that does not belong to him. He crawls towards me like a searchlight. "Your child," says Miss Birdie, "is a phenomenon." I blush. "Oh, thank you. We too think he is very special," I say. I want to ask about the poncho, but Miss Birdie goes on. "I mean, your child is a phenomena," says Miss Birdie. "What I mean to say is that your child is a real man." Miss Birdie softly pinches her tongue and pulls out a long white hair. "Oh, that's better," she says. "I mean a ma." She makes little tiny spits. "I mean a no one. Your child," says Miss Birdie, "is a real no one." No, that's not it either. Miss Birdie smooths her stiff cotton skirt. It's pink with tiny red cherries on it. "What I mean to say most of all," says Miss Birdie, "is that I love not being dead." "Me too," I say. "Oh, good," says Miss Birdie. "Here's his bottle. He drank all his milk and then cried and cried and cried for more." In the hallway, I pass a mother covered in daughters. I count approximately 5. I hold up my bundled son like a form of identification, like he will provide me safe passage across the border. "No daughters?" she asks. "No," I say, "no daughters." How come, she asks. She seems to be blaming me unfairly. By the time they arrived, I explain, the daughters had turned. Rotten, she asks. Not exactly rotten, but gigantic. I hand her my boy so I can spread my arms wide to show her how big. I take my boy back. Gigantic, I repeat, and mealy. I sent the whole bin back, the whole bin of daughters back. The brave thing would have been to keep them, I know, but they seem so impossible to name. The mother nods. She still seems to disapprove, but before I can be certain, her daughters lift her up hungrily and carry her away. The strange thing about being a mother is how often I'm interrupted, like something is happening and then something else is happening. It is difficult to get a good grasp on things. The next day, Miss Birdie is peeling vegetables. The babies are watching, transfixed. I have come early to pick up my boy, but I don't see my boy. Miss Birdie points to a child the color of chicken broth. Yours? She asks. Definitely not mine, I say. She points to another and another, as if I lost my ticket for the coat check. I don't see my boy. It is becoming difficult to breathe, and I am suddenly freezing cold. The floor opens up beneath me, and just as I begin to fall through, my boy crawls out from underneath the bassinet. In his fist is a tiny book. On the cover is a picture of a plain brown mouse. He holds it up. Mouse, he says. This is his first real word. My mouse, he says. I am amazed. I am relieved. His pronunciation is perfect. I want to pick him up, reward him with kisses, hold him and never let him go, but Miss Birdie stops me. No, no, she says. She softly wags a finger at my boy. That's not your mouse. That's no one's mouse. Her voice slows. That mouse, Miss Birdie coughs. That mouse, she says, is alone in this world and barely. Miss Birdie stops. What was that? She asks. What was what? I say. That sound, says Miss Birdie. I don't know, I say. What did it sound like? It was a sound that sounded like a sound, says Miss Birdie, like a sound would make. Never mind. Where was I? You were with the mouse. Oh, the mouse, do you know him? No, I say, unless you mean. Neither do I, says Miss Birdie, and this is my point. That mouse, Miss Birdie is now looking at my boy, that mouse is alone in this world and barely. Miss Birdie sucks in one long, beautiful breath. Exists, says Miss Birdie triumphantly. That mouse is not unlike you. She is still looking at my boy. When I call out for that mouse in the dark, does the mouse come? No, the mouse does not. Do you? So far, not even once. My baby puts his whole hand in Miss Birdie's mouth and leaves it there for what seems like days. On Monday, Miss Birdie's bright pink blouse is fluttering with excitement. Your boy wrote his name today all by himself. She hands me a piece of construction paper. Someone, not my baby, has written on it shreds. I hand the paper back. That is not his name. Oh, says Miss Birdie. She looks at the paper and her face crumples. I'm sorry, says Miss Birdie. I don't know how this happened. I don't know how anything happens, I say. We hold hands. I'm so lonely, says Miss Birdie. I'm so lonely too, I say. I thought you were my hiding place, says Miss Birdie. I picture her skull. I thought you were mine, I say. Miss Birdie ties a yellow scarf around her head. Stop picturing my skull, says Miss Birdie. She is clearly upset. Her lips are cracked and begin to bleed a little. She looks at the construction paper and traces each letter with her thumb. If this isn't his name, then whose name is it? She sorts through all the other babies. She pats me down as if searching for something. She touches me on the thigh. She feels like she's about to snow. The next day, there's a message from Miss Birdie. We cannot give your boy his bottle. The milk you left was wild. Please bring better milk. I rush to Live Oak. I have no better milk. This is the only milk I have. I point to each breast. Miss Birdie is holding my baby. He is shivering and hungry. Miss Birdie is snowing, hard. I try to walk towards her, but there is a great wind and I can barely see through the big white flakes. This is the only milk I have. I am calling to Miss Birdie and my boy through the snowstorm. My arms are outstretched. Come to Mama, I cry. I say my baby's name. It sounds smaller and flatter than I ever imagined it. I can't get to him. Miss Birdie is a blizzard that could last all winter. I am sorry, I am shouting. Miss Birdie has my baby and she is snowing. It is all my fault. I should never have left him. I am sorry, I am sorry, I am sorry. I am punching at the snow. I am fighting against nature when I know I have no choice but to wait until spring. The mother covered in daughters kneels beside me. This time I count approximately 15. Climb on, she says. I am so sorry, I say. It is the only milk I have. Of course it is, she says. Is there room, I ask? Around my neck, she says. I climb around it loosely. The mother covered in daughters is warm, and I am so tired. Go to sleep, says the mother. I will wake you up when it's time to go. But the mother never does wake me up, which is how you know this story is true. Thank you.
Okay, one more song. Thanks for having me. This is a song off of, actually inspired the title of my album. It's for sale back there. And thanks to Beth for being born and for the lovely introduction. I trust her, I trust her, I trust her. She is friends with my father. Blue mother, blue mother. Blue mother, I searched her face. I tried to remember. So I wrote down her name. Echo, believer, linger, linger, linger. Blue mother, I could silence all the voices with my motion, with my motion. I could silence all the voices. I could silence all the voices with my motion. Blue mother, echo, echo, believer, linger, linger, linger. eyes to the hills, lift our eyes to the hills. Oh, I'm sorry, I do have one more song. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Beth. Happy birthday to you. And that is Beth Thrasher, who does all of our flyers. Happy birthday, Beth. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you, Jessica and Tim and Sabrina and Thayer. Thank you, Bart, for recording. Thank you, everyone on Avid staff here tonight. And please remember to support Avid. And thanks again for coming. Oh, and October 23rd, Jericho Brown, Alex Schuyler Brown, and some wonderful musicians will be here. Thank you again. Bye-bye.